Hello there, it's Boltzman here. Welcome to the first episode of the Analog series. On this video, I will show very briefly the main features and characteristics of analog. Since this video will not go into much depth of the synth, I will put a link on the description below of a video that is much more detailed than mine, and it was actually where I learned the synth. So let's dive deep into analog. So analog is a digital synthesizer, and they try to emulate the analog circuitry and warmth of analog synthesizers, and that's where the name comes from. So in overview, analog, it's a synth with two oscillators, one noise oscillator, then two filter sections, two amps, two LFOs, and the global section. And in this synth, if you click on each section here on the middle, you can see their parameters. So if I click here on the oscillator 1, I have some parameters for oscillator 1, the same for filter 2, the same for amp 2, the LFOs, and the global section. So for each oscillator, you can choose between 4 waveforms: a sine wave, a sawtooth, a rectangle or square, and the white noise. And you can transpose the oscillator up or down by octaves. And it goes from -3 to +3. You can also transpose the semitones from -12 semitones to +12 semitones, and you can also detune it. Then inside the oscillator itself, you can modulate the pitch envelope, so the pitch that it starts, how much time it takes to get to the normal pitch, and then some more parameters here. The most important one here, or that I use more often, is the sub-oscillator level. What this does is it creates an oscillator 1 octave below your main oscillators, and it adds a sub. It's a very nice sound. So on the oscillators, you have this thing here. This says where the oscillator, to which filter is the oscillator going to. So in this case, you can see that it's set to F1. So all the signal of oscillator 1 is going to filter 1. You can do the opposite. So all the signal from oscillator 1 going to filter 2, or you can do a mix of both. So in this case, 50-50. 50% of the signal is going to filter 1, 50% of the signal is going to filter 2. On the noise section, it's a very simple section. To activate, you press this button and it turns yellow. Here you have the volume of the noise, and here the color. So it has a low pass filter, and you can choose what kind of frequencies you want the noise to have. Then let's move over to the filter section. On the filter section, you have two main modes: exponential and linear. You can see that the curves between the attack and the decay, the curve of the decay is linear, and now it's exponential. And then you have the typical ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, and release. You have a drive, so you can drive your filter, which is quite nice. You can get really warm sounds out of this. And then you have the modulation here. You can modulate the frequency and modulate the resonance. And you can choose from a variety of types of filters, so low pass, band pass, notch, high pass, and formats. The filter 2 is exactly the same thing as filter 1. So I will jump now to the amp section. The amp section is actually very similar to the filter section. You have the same attack, decay, sustain, and release options here, the same two modes. But now on the modulation, it's a bit different. Now you can modulate the panning and the level of the amp. and you can modulate these. Actually, yeah, this modulation here on the filter on the amp. Do you have three ways of modulating it? One is with the LFOs here. Another is with the key. So depending on which key you play, the modulation will be different. And this envelope. So this envelope gives the amount of modulation that is being controlled by this attack, decay, sustain, and release. Then to the LFO section, you have two LFOs, so you can have two separate waves. You can choose from 5 waveforms: sine, triangle, rectangle, and 2 noises. One of the noises, I'm not sure if 1 or 2 is white noise, and the other one is a step noise. Then for some waves, like the triangle, you can adjust the pulse width. You have a retrigger option, and then you can offset. So if you don't, depending on how you want the wave to start, the waveform to start, you can offset it to your taste. Also the delay and attack. And on the LFO you have 2 modes, an Hertz mode, so how many times per second it oscillates, or per beats. So this syncs up to your BPM and to your tempo, and you can choose from different tempos. Finally, we go to the global section. Here you can adjust the output volume. You have a vibrato, an unison, and a glide. And then here in the middle, you have 4 different routing settings. So basically this affects how the oscillators and the filters are routed. For example, on this one here, what is happening is that both oscillators are going to filter 1 and through amp 1. So the filter 2 and amp 2 are disabled. And then you have the settings of the vibrato, the settings of the keyboards. I don't really play much with this, to be honest. Here, quite important, the number of voices of the synthesizer, and then some more options, parameters for the unison and the glides. So this is it. I hope you have enjoyed. As I said, it's quite a brief overview. If you want to learn things with more detail, please go to the description below, where I have put a link of the video where I've actually learned analog. And please smash that subscribe button if you liked, put a thumbs up, and stay tuned to the next episodes, because we will see and learn how to make really cool sounds out of analog. Stay tuned. Peace.